It's the Vancouver Hockey Show, back once again. Andrew Wadden alongside the Healthy Scratches, Nick Hauka, Jake Fraser. Boys, how we doing today? As we record this, the Blue Jays are playing in a World Series game about an hour from now. So as we record this, we're getting set for the Jays. And as you can see, I'm wearing my hat. But I got to ask both of you guys, though, because you are both BC boys and, raised here in Vancouver. Now, I'm from Toronto originally, but I've been living in BC for over 20 years now. But do you guys have an affiliation to the Blue Jays, or are you both perhaps Mariners fans?
I'm not super tapped into baseball, but come playoff time, I do tend to cheer for the Jays. Just they're Canada's team in my eyes. I'm a big Raptors fan too, so I look past the fact that they're a Toronto team for those two sports.
Gotcha.
Yeah, unlike I think a lot of people that aren't actually fans, Andrew, I know that's not you. I know you always are sporting the good old Blue Jays all the time, you and our buddy Gord, but I'm not going to pretend to like baseball just because the Jays are in the playoffs. I'm a diehard guy, and I don't care how bad my team is. I'm always going to cheer for my team. I'm not going to hop on a bandwagon. I refuse.
Good boy. I like it.
As the Jags, Canucks,
yeah,
and New York Knicks fan. So
oh my goodness!
not doing
I'm finding out new stuff.
Yeah.
New York Knicks, buddy.
Yeah.
It's a rival.
Big Carmelo Anthony guy. Big Carmelo guy growing up. So
isn't Carmelo's kid playing in NCAA right now?
Yeah, he's going to Syracuse.
And he's at Syracuse as well. Yeah, interesting. Well, there you go. Little b-ball and baseball off the top of a hockey podcast here. Well, let's dive into the Canucks. As interesting week for them. They snap a 3-game losing skid with a win over the Oil. But boys, the last time we spoke, they were headed to Pittsburgh to play against the Penguins. And, you'd think that would be the free space on the bingo card this season, especially considering the Pens are really the only team in the league that are basically bottoming out, trying to bottom out. They get their ass handed to them, the Canucks do, by the Penguins, 5-1. And guys, they looked awful in that game, but then they followed it up with an even, I don't know about worse performance, but just another bad one, another stinker to the Preds. What did you guys think of the week that was? They blow that 2-goal lead against Montreal. They looked better against them, and then I thought they looked good against the Oil, even though they had to win it in overtime. But just that whole week in its totality, Nick, it just kind of feels like that's this year's version of the Vancouver Canucks.
Wait, you're telling me that the team who has a line named after their AHL franchise is struggling?
Yeah, no doubt.
No. Shocking. Yeah, I think against Pittsburgh, they very much they got out physical all game. That second line of Mantha, Brazeau, and Malkin just kind of put them to the tool shed for most of the second and third period there. They just didn't have the skill or the size to kind of match up against that team. And I actually think Pittsburgh's better than people are giving them credit for. I think they're well above 500 right now. I think they're 6-3-2 or something like that. They're not having a bad year, and they actually don't look that bad, especially that second line stepping up, but just totally outclassed in that one. That Nashville game, that was bad hockey. That was really boring. That was brutal to watch. I know Nashville had quite a few shots, but a lot of those were from the outside. There were a couple good chances, obviously, but yeah, that was just bad hockey. And, when you have one center go down, I know they've had a bunch of wingers go down, but you have one center go down and then your team is just absolutely decimated in the middle of the ice. I don't think that's great roster building. And I think we saw a reflection of that on the road trip anyway.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. You talked about the Abbey line. Max Sasson was to see the whole road trip. That can't be the case if you want to win hockey games. I feel like the team played well considering, other than the Pittsburgh and Nashville game, I'm talking more of the Montreal and Edmonton game. They played well considering the injuries that they had and the fact that they were able to pull out 2 points. I would have been happy with just one against the Oilers, considering the amount of star power that team has. McDavid, Draisaitl. The Canucks at full strength, it's a tough matchup, but considering how decimated they've been with injuries, I'm fairly happy with how things have been. I think the team's a 500 team and they're hurting for players right now. They bring in a guy like Lucas Reichel. Hopefully he can be an answer. But yeah, I don't think he's necessarily going to be that top 6 guy either. So just taking all of that in, I think 500 is a solid building block to start the year for the team.
Yeah. The only problem with 500 is, though, it doesn't allow you to become a playoff team, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is with, this new regime that came in here and the early success that they had with that decent run that they had in the playoffs, and if they're going to follow it up with, not making the playoffs and then again, perhaps not making the playoffs, like, it's like, where are we as an organization when it comes to the Vancouver Canucks? Maybe a little deeper conversation is that one. So let's maybe put that on the back burner a little bit, because we are only 10 games into the season. So let's not, sort of allow that to get into the conversation just yet. But it's definitely on the perimeter, and we will be talking about it if they aren't able to find a different gear, that is. You talked about the injuries, and the injuries are definitely something that it's just, they're there. You have to deal with it. Quinn Hughes doesn't play against the Oilers. Obviously, that's a big one. But, for them to be able to get points with the amount of guys that they have down, I mean, yes, that is positive. But really, I think the biggest question for this team is when they do get healthy, are they able to take that next step, right? Are they able to not be this sort of 500 team? Are they able to, get that win over Montreal after blowing that a 2-goal lead, right? So these are all questions that we're going to have about the Canucks. I think one question we don't have right now is, where is Kiefer Sherwood? Because he's everywhere. 6 goals, 0 assists. So he's a leading Cy Young Award candidate right now. On pace for 49 goals, guys. Don't think he's going to get quite there, but I tell you what, Jake, like, just a great start for Kiefer Sherwood. Final year of his contract, though. And as I mentioned earlier there, when we're talking about, this team taking another step and perhaps trying to flirt with the playoffs, what is the future of Kiefer Sherwood? Because if this team becomes what they were last year and basically, they're going to not make the playoffs, well, you're probably going to be looking at that player going, okay, this is going to be a guy that we're going to want to deal at the deadline. But moving forward, is he the kind of guy that you want on your roster, Nick, so that you can, sort of build with him?
Yeah, 100%. Like, we saw this last year too, early in the season, and then November, December, he really came on down the stretch, and he was very, very good for a couple of months. But when they tried to elevate him in the lineup, he wasn't able to kind of play with that same tenacity with big line minutes. So, like, I think he is what he is at this point. I think he's one of the best liners in the league, and he's a great guy to have on your team for the playoffs. The problem is you need to surround him with more talent. He can't be the guy being your best player right now. That's just not plausible to be a playoff team with that. I think you have to keep him. I think the energy that he plays with is so infectious to the team, and you need a guy like that, especially with this group where there's a lot of, I would say there's a lot of passengers at times, and he's never a passenger. So I think they need to do whatever they can to keep him without giving him like an absurd amount of money.
Yeah, he's one of the only guys that's going every single night for the team. I think you can say him and Connor Garland are the two that stick out every night and are playing their hearts out. But yeah, it's a typical Canucks bottom 6 forward contract year, just having an unbelievable start. And you talk about possibly moving him at the deadline. This team just doesn't do that. We saw that last year with Pius Suter, and to a lesser extent because they did bring Besser back, but Brock Besser as well. Like, the team was not fighting for a playoff spot last year like they could be this year. And they just decided to hang on to these guys and lose them for nothing. And so I don't see them trading Sherwood, but you would hope, if that's the case, that they would get an extension done before that deadline comes around, because then all the chips are in his on his side of the table, however the saying goes. And yeah, you might have to overpay, and I don't think you want to do that, especially with how Dakota Joshua's contract worked out. They had to get rid of that right after 1 year, and to a lesser extent now as well, Drew O'Connor's another guy that I've heard a lot of fans just not pleased with how he's been playing and wondering why the Canucks extended him as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Garland there as well, and Garland, kind of similar to Kiefer Sherwood in terms of the way they play, right? The tenacity's there. They got a little bit of offensive flair. They like to muck it up a bit. They're not the biggest dudes either. So I do like, sort of aligning their games sort of similar to each other. Obviously, Sherwood likes to throw the body a little bit more than Garland does, but like, they did extend Garland. right? And Garland's 29 years old. He's going to be with the team at least till 2032. And I'm wondering though, because when you brought up like Pia Suter and Brock Besser, is these the mistakes that this regime and perhaps even ownership, because I know there's pressure from up top to have some success and particularly just making the playoffs. But like, are these the mistakes that this regime and an organization are making by not making these trades, by not moving these players and trying to just, limp into the playoffs and essentially get your ass handed to you? Because you're not a contender when you go in like that, right? Like you're playing off hope at that point, right? So I'm wondering if these are the sort of crucial mistakes that they're making in terms of being able to build this team properly, move these guys, get pieces, get these extra draft picks, whatever it takes. Do you think perhaps, Jake, that this is a detriment to them as an organization moving forward to just sort of try to scrape in and just, sort of live in the world of hope?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an issue since the 2011 Cup run. Like they've refused to move off of players, and that's why this team has never had a deep prospect pool. Like they've struggled to bring in those prospects, develop these guys, and now we're seeing guys like Braden Coots, Tom Molander, Jonathan Lekkerimaki. Things are moving in a better direction, but it's still going to be an issue. Like you could have gotten a second or third round pick for Pia Suter last trade deadline, especially with how much teams were paying for these middle six centermen. And so, if these injuries continue to pile up and the team just can't get into the hunt of being like even a contender to make the second round, I think unless you're going to extend Kiefer Sherwood and say, this guy's a building block for what we want to do in the next 4 or 5 years, then you have to move off of a guy like that this trade deadline and bring in some assets that can help you 3-4 years down the road.
Yeah, like that's been their fatal flaw since 2011, right? They get the idea that they can just kind of quickly reset and they don't have the proper building blocks in place. And if you look at all the best teams in the NHL over the last 10 years, they have vast prospect pools, they have depth. So when a couple players go down, next man up, and they're able to keep going. Look at Florida, look at Colorado. Remember last year, Colorado had like 12 injuries at one point, and they had legit like AHL players playing in their bottom six, and they were still able to hold water. We don't have that as a franchise right now, because we keep trying to do these quick turnarounds. We don't do proper rebuilds, and we don't properly build through the bottom up. So that's what happens, and that decreases your chances even when you make the playoffs, because even if you're fully healthy going in, you're always just a couple away from being completely screwed. And that's the problem with the Canucks, and has been since the Gillis era, really.
Well, and you talk about, how many regimes have gone through that since the Gillis era, right? What's the one common factor that's always been here, though?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah,
and this is the problem with this team. I mean, you put it perfectly there, Nick. Like it's just constantly just been this, like they're just chasing it. And at some point you got to bottom out. Look at all of the teams, that are having success in the NHL right now. At some point they, plugged their nose and dove into a rebuild, right? And then now they're able to find themselves, as a contender. Teams that just limp into the playoffs don't win Stanley Cups. The LA Kings in what was that, 2012, was it? They're the outlier, right? It's just stuff doesn't happen. Like these teams are built a certain way, and it takes a long time to do that. And I think we are a little ahead of ourselves here, seeing that we are just 10 games into the season, but it's just, you just keep seeing these trends over and over again. And eventually, like, something's got to give here. One player that was trending poorly is starting to find his way out of it, though, and that's Elias Pettersson. 5 points in his last 4 games. I think the biggest thing here, and I'm completely stating the obvious, though, is I know how so many people want to be like, oh, Petey's back. And again, you talk about hope. Like a lot of people just want to live in this world of hope that Elias Pettersson's just going to get back to being the player that he used to be. And I'm not saying that he can't be, but I think the biggest thing that we need to see from Elias Pettersson right now, and again, saying the obvious, is consistency. Like Jake, he's got to be more consistent. He's got to continue to put this together. That $11.6 million that he makes a year will not go away if you're not producing. And so you have to be consistent with your play. And not only that, like, you got to be well above a point a game player if you're going to be making that sort of bread.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the last 2 games, I really liked what I saw. It was back to that Pettersson that we saw 3 seasons ago when he signed that $11.6 million extension. He was he was matching up against the Nick Suzuki line and the Connor McDavid line. Played really solid defensively, and then he was also able to produce on the offensive side of the ice, which we just haven't seen both of those come to fruition in a game, especially back-to-back games, in a long time from him. Like, usually it's, oh, he played well defensively, but just hasn't put up points, or oh, he's putting up points, but then he's losing it defensively a little bit. So it's really encouraging to see, but as you said, if he can't continue to do this, then his head's not above the water here. Like, he's gotta continue to do what he did these last 2 games if he wants people to start talking about him in such a positive light in the Vancouver market.
Yeah, fool me 1 time, shame on you. Fool me 2 times, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, PD, you're messing with a vulnerable fan base. So everyone wants this to happen, right? They thought he was back after that Toronto game. And I will say these past 2 games are the best games I have seen him play since that game. And they were back to back. So that is very welcoming news. Very encouraged by that. I need to see it put together. But I think some things that I've seen that I haven't seen for a while, even in that Toronto game where he was very defensively stout and was able to chip in on the score sheet, he wasn't doing some of the like cocky things that he usually does, like that through the legs attempt that didn't go in. That's something that I haven't seen in like 3 or 4 years from him. I really like the confidence that he's playing with. When he scored, got the puck on his stick, he didn't look around twice. He corralled it, put it back, put it in the net. He's looking to shoot. So that's good. And that's something that we haven't seen consistently, especially in back-to-back games for years, right? Now we're seeing it again. So that is good. I don't want to sound like a member of that vulnerable fan base, but it's looking pretty good. Hopefully that can continue.
Yeah.
Ripped it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And again, like you mentioned, held his own against the Suzuki line, held his own against McDavid, and he's going to have to hold his own against his old buddy, JT Miller, which is coming up next on the schedule. We'll get that in just a moment. Let's talk about Lukas Reichel, though, guys, because the Canucks made a trade. They get Reichel out of Chicago for a 4th rounder. I mean, to me, it's like a scratch and win at this point. I love how people love to trot out. Like, friends of mine were like, hey, you're about to trade? I'm like, yeah, what happened? Oh, I got Lukas Reichel out of Chicago, former 12th overall pick. Like, at some point, like, that just loses its allure, right? Like, because pretty much everybody was a first-round pick in the NHL. I mean, not everybody, but there's a good percentage of guys. But if you're picking the first round, you're probably going to find yourself to have somewhat of a career in the NHL. But the 12th overall sort of prestige I'm pretty sure is worn off when it comes to Lukas Reichel, or the Chicago Blackhawks wouldn't be just trading him for a scratch and win 4th round pick. He has a season high 50 and 54 of ice time against Montreal, but he's -3 over 2 games as a Canuck. Is it just a matter of more opportunity, do you think, Nick, for Lukas Reichel to be able to find his game in the NHL, or is this just the player? Like, I mean, obviously, again, when you are Patrick Alvin and you're bringing in the player, you hope you've done the research to prove that you see something in this player. But until that happens, he's still just a prospect hoping to find his footing in the NHL. And perhaps this opportunity could be the one that'll be there for Reichel to be able to be consider himself a full-time NHLer.
Yeah, like, I think he does need the opportunity to prove himself. He got, I think it was last year or the year before, he got, I think, 15-ish games as the second line center on Chicago when they were a disaster and really bad, and he did not play well at center ice. I've heard from sources that people think he's a better winger and more skillful there. But so he hasn't, and then after that happened, he just got demoted. Then he was in the press box, and he never really had a chance again to kind of solidify himself within the lineup with consistent line mates, et cetera, et cetera. So not really set up to succeed there. When I watch him, like, he has a really good NHL skill set. He can really skate. He has a good shot, good hands. He seems to be in the right place in the offensive end, at least most of the time. I think defensively he has a little bit to offer there, but or to work on rather. But I think he just needs a chance, and I think this is a really good opportunity with him with a blue line, or sorry, center depleted team, we'll say, to actually get a chance to play center. And if not, maybe he can find, as long as he has consistent line mates, maybe he can find something. I think for a 4th round pick, this is actually a pretty good swing.
Yeah, I project him more as a winger myself. I think you saw in the Montreal game, Evander Kane was lining up for faceoffs. Brock Besser was lining up for faceoffs. Reichel didn't take a ton of draws, and that's definitely going to be something he needs to work on if he wants to become a full-time NHL centerman. But yeah, I was fairly encouraged by what I saw from his first 2 games. He had a couple chances against the Oilers, the Canadiens game. I thought he looked fast. That's what you wanted from him. He was a guy that everybody knew had a ton of speed. And so that's what I wanted to see, especially considering he just got off a plane and there were a bunch of delays, got in game day and then plays a back-to-back. Like that's a tough hand to be dealt for your first time playing with a new team. So I was pretty encouraged by him, but yeah, like you said, there's going to be a good opportunity for him to be a second line center here. I don't think he's going to be a long-term solution by any means there, but I just hope that he can prove himself as a full-time NHLer, especially they give up a 4th round pick. If he ends up being the bottom 6 winger, then that's better than a lot of 4th round picks amount to. So at the end of the day, it's a good move by the Canucks, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like scratch and win, right? Like if you win on it, then it's great. And then also too, they had extra 4th round picks in 2027 anyway. They had 3, so they're able to move one of them. They still got 2. Yeah, I just when I see these sort of moves, like it just, both of you guys saying that you see him more as a winger, and if you look around, his hockey DB page and whatnot, like everyone has him down as a winger. So I do wonder, if you are going to trade some of that capital that you've got built up with the extra 4th round picks, if the right move was to go for somebody who potentially is going to play on the wing as well when you're so depleted down the middle. But, like I said, maybe the Canucks did their research and figure that they, might be able to play him down the middle. And maybe he was the best opportunity that they had in terms of bringing in a young player at that, in a trade. So we'll see what happens with Lukas Reichel. But I think you're both right in terms of like, there's going to be opportunity here. Let's just see if he can seize it. Quinn Hughes going down with an injury just adds to the list of injuries right now with the Canucks. He is day-to-day with the lower body. But guys, I mean, again, stating the obvious here, like the Canucks are not going anywhere without Quinn Hughes. So they're going to need him to get healthy. But there are some rumors swirling around the team right now. And Pavel Zacha is one of those guys that has been bandied about, as they say. There was talk that they were talking to the Bruins about him in the summer. Then now they're resurfacing again, of course, with the injuries that they do have down the middle. The one thing that I'm questionable about, though, when it comes to Zacha, guys, and I'll start with you, Nick, how do they trade for him? He's got 1 year left on a $4.75 million contract. Now, even if the Bruins eat a little bit of it, the Canucks, as of recording right now, as I'm staring at their Puckpedia page, are in the negative when it comes to cap space. So how the hell are they going to even pull this off?
Yeah, I mean, those supposed talks for players always kind of sound better when you don't look at the cap, right? But
yeah, you don't look at reality.
Yeah. Well, I don't like, what are you going to do? Are you going to move Evander Kane off of his deal? What are you going to do to make that happen? Now, one thing that Alvin has shown that he's capable of doing is he is a wizard with the cap. He does find his ways with LTIR and things of that nature to create space. He's been very creative over his time here with doing that. So maybe he finds the way, but I don't think we can find a way for a guy that makes that much currently to get him in the lineup and still be within the cap. I just don't see that as a possibility. But again, I'm not a math guy. It took me 3 tries to pass Math 8, and then I got 58 in Apprenticeship Workplace 11 math. So don't ask me about that.
Jeez, yeah.
I did some messing around with Puckpedia's GM website, whatever, and it is possible, but you'd have to move off of a guy like Drew O'Connor, and you couldn't carry a full NHL roster when the team is fully healthy, having Pavel Zacha. But the other thing that I'm concerned about is, like, yeah, the cap space becomes a bit of an issue because you can't carry that full roster, but also, like, you're going to have to overpay for Zacha. 10 games into the season, team like the Bruins, they don't need to sell him right now. Like, they can wait till a buyer comes in and offers them what Brock Nelson got last year, first round pick and a top end prospect. Like, I don't want to see the Canucks overpay for a year or two of Pavel Zacha. I think that would be a big mistake, because realistically, he's a good player and he can be a second line center in a pinch, but he's more of a third line center. He's not really a play driver. He's more of a complementary player. He's spent time playing with David Pastrnak. Like, we don't have guys like that here that he can play with. So how much is he going to elevate this team if he's playing between, say, Evander Kane and Brock Besser?
That'd be a very, like, 2017 to 19 Canucks deal. That would be a Jay Beagle signing type thing.
Do you remember that, Jen?
So good at faceoffs. Wow, he was good at faceoffs.
Well, it was July 1st, right? It was Roussel, Beagle, and who was the third? Was it
Eriksson, or was that the year before?
Eriksson was the year before, a couple of years before.
Okay.
There was somebody else. There was a third guy in there. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just unbelievable when they made those signings. You're like, what the hell is Jim Benning even thinking here?
I just remember Jay Beagle getting knocked out by Asham.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of getting knocked out, by the way, did you guys see Alex Tuck get knocked out by was it Jake McCabe?
Yeah.
Maple Leafs.
Yeah, that was.
What was he thinking doing a spin move in the middle of a fight? Like, he just turned around and a fist right in the face. Anyway. Pavel Zacha, though, at 28 years old, yeah, like you said, two years left on that contract. I mean, his high watermark is 59 points. He's kind of that guy, high 40s, low 50s kind of guy in terms of points. Is he the kind of guy you want to be giving around a first round pick for? I don't know, man. I don't know. I think the Canucks as a whole, as an organization, they shouldn't be peeling off first round picks right now. You're not there. You're not Florida. You're not one of those teams that's built to win a Stanley Cup now, right? Can't be dealing away the future. Speaking of the future, that's what's ahead for the Canucks. JT Miller and the Rangers in town on Tuesday night. Then they start a 3-game road trip that goes through St. Louis, Minnesota, and Nashville. Guys, obviously, it's a big one that's circled on Tuesday night. JT Miller in town. I'll start with you, Jake. What do you think? What do you think the response is going to be for JT Miller coming back to his old stomping grounds?
I think it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag. Like, you're going to have some fans who wanted PD over Miller, and they're going to be maybe raining down some boos. But then you're going to have the other fans that thought we traded the wrong guy and are going to be doing the JT Miller chants during the game. So I think it's going to be a fun one. I'm excited to see Pettersson and Miller matched up. We talked about Suzuki and McDavid lines being matched up against PD. I would love to see Miller's line matched up against PD in this game. And just for Pettersson's sake, I hope he can hold his own and really bring it to Miller. Just, get back at him for all the shit he had to deal with while they were in the locker room together.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I can't see that going any other way than him being booed all game.
Really?
I think, yeah,
really?
I know, like, I thought he obviously had a pretty successful career here, but just with the whole situation and just the frustration around what happened and them not being able to get along, I feel like you can't, I feel like people aren't going to cheer for that. I don't know, like, because I think if you look at it, that's kind of the downfall of this franchise being somewhat of a contender, was that trade having to happen and them not being able to get along. So I don't know. I think that people are going to boo him all game. Maybe in the beginning a little bit of a cheer, but I think throughout probably booing. No?
Weren't they chanting his name though? Like up until the game before he was traded? Like the city.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah,
Jake.
it's Canucks fans.
Yeah, it's
Canucks
true.
fans.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
it was definitely a mixed bag, and I still think there is. Like, I still think there are people out there that believe that they traded the wrong player. And, you know, with the start that Miller's had this season with the Rangers, maybe some of those opinions have changed. But I actually think he's going to get a pretty warm reception. I think the fans are going to, I think there might be a JT Miller chant at one point, but I think it might be subdued as well. Like, it's like, just give him his flowers a little bit and then we move on. You know, like, just like seeing your ex in public for the first time in a few years. Just being cordial with each other and then just sort of moving on after that. Right?
Give her a little chant.
A little tap on the ass on the way back. All right. Again, like I said, big week for the Canucks, Rangers, Blues, Wild, Preds. See if the Canucks, what they can do in terms of those 4 games. Big 8 points on the line for the Canucks here as they try to work their way through these injuries and stay afloat here in the playoff race. All right, for the Healthy Scratches, I'm Andrew Wadden. Thanks for joining, guys.